Tonight, coronavirus cases reach a one-day high in Montana, and a nursing home in Billings is at the center of the increase. Plus,
they served our country. Now they're doing their part to stop the spread. We'll take you to a drive-through clinic at VA Montana.
And later, tourists are staying grounded after flying into the Treasure State. What airport officials are noticing as the summer travel season continues.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for trusting MTN on this Tuesday night. I'm Tim McGonigal.
And I'm Keely Van Middendorp. Well, another record jump in coronavirus cases in Montana. We'll get to that first, but our top story tonight beginning in Great Falls.
A range of opinions were expressed after a proposal to Great Falls City Commissioners tonight. Leaders with the Great Falls LGBTQ+ Center proposed the commission approve a non-discrimination ordinance for the city. The ordinance would protect individuals in areas like housing, public accommodations, and employment. Many people spoke for and against the issue, with some calling in via Zoom due to COVID-19 concerns. MTN News spoke with one of the LGBTQ+ Center's board members who said it's time for a change in the city.
We think it is well past time for Great Falls to kind of step into the modern era and have an NDO for many reasons. The most important of which, of course, is we have a large collection of citizens in our community who are not protected in terms of housing rights, in terms of several other rights. While we may have certain federal protections, those do not currently cover housing rights, despite common misconception that they do. And so I think it's time for Great Falls to join many other communities and step up to the plate and make sure that we're taking care of our people.
The proposal will go to the commissioners for review to be put on the agenda for future meetings. Also on the agenda tonight was a proposal to renew the school resource officer agreement between the City of Great Falls and Great Falls Public School District. That motion passed.
Well, like we were mentioning just before, another record jump in COVID-19 cases for the state. We added at least 80 cases since Monday morning. Montana currently has 536 active cases with 22 hospitalizations. 13 counties have reported cases, Yellowstone seeing the vast majority with 55. And tonight, a West End long-term care facility is in quarantine. We know that 2 of the residents at Canyon Creek Memory Care Community are hospitalized in Billings, and the governor says this situation is unacceptable.
This comes after the majority of the residents there tested positive for COVID-19. 58 people in all, including 43 residents and 15 staff members. MTN's Russ Riesinger reports.
How COVID-19 got into the facility on Billings West End remains a mystery, much like the virus itself. But one thing is very clear: it's highly contagious and especially dangerous for older people with underlying conditions.
Older people tend to have multiple underlying chronic disorders that make it more difficult. And I think the other piece, particularly in a memory care facility, is people who have significant cognitive impairment can't follow the instructions of keeping your distance and washing your hands and wearing a mask. So they're at very high risk to get the disease, and once they get it, they're at very high risk for severe disease and high risk of death.
The owner of Canyon Creek says protocols were put into place back in mid-February to prevent exposure to COVID-19, limiting visitation and monitoring staff. Governor Bullock addressed the situation this afternoon.
Canyon Creek could decline participation when we encourage sentinel testing. Every single assisted living facility should be conducting sentinel testing. So the purpose of this rule is to help prevent what's happened at Canyon Creek moving forward.
The governor plans an order this week making that testing mandatory for visitors to be allowed in senior facilities. Visitations are already on hold in Yellowstone County after positives in a number of senior facilities last week.
I know a lot of people are still thinking that it's not that big a deal, but I think when you look at what we talked about over and over, the risk of getting in vulnerable populations, how quickly it can explode in that type of population.
And starting today, if you go to the Great Falls Public Library, you'll need to wear a mask. They will be provided for free should you need one. Children under the age of 12 will be exempt from the requirement. All library staff have been required to wear masks since the reopening, and rigorous cleaning protocols are in place. Library materials are quarantined for 72 hours after use, and hand sanitizer is available in all areas of the library. Lewis and Clark public health leaders have issued a new order seeking to stop large gatherings in the county over concerns about the possibility of spreading COVID-19. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports on what the order will mean for upcoming planned events.
Lewis and Clark County Health Officer Drenda Neiman says while they've been discouraging large events around the county for some time, they now feel it's necessary to take additional steps to back up that guidance.
Our recommendations and our advice continues to be disregarded, and large events with lots of people continue to happen.
On Tuesday, Lewis and Clark Public Health released a new order, making their previous recommendations on large gatherings into enforceable requirements. The order says as of Wednesday, events with more than 250 people will not be allowed. Anyone organizing an event with more than 50 will be required to submit a detailed plan on protective measures with public health 10 days before the gathering.
We do want to be helpful, and we want to work with event organizers to make the event as safe as possible, but we will be honest if we don't think that the event will be safe, and we'll ask that it be canceled.
Enforcement of the new order will be complaint-driven. If authorities receive a complaint, law enforcement will observe the gatherings and could forward information to the county attorney for potential misdemeanor charges. Last week, Public Health was reviewing more than 30 proposals for large events, and Neiman said they've received a large number since. She said they're concerned some of the plans may look feasible but be too difficult to implement safely.
We have a responsibility to keep our community safe, and at this point we need to keep the cases low, and the only way we can do that is to get our community to respond by taking our advice and doing what we're asking.
In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Meanwhile, as COVID-19 cases continue to rise in Montana and various places across the U.S., the Montana VA held their second asymptomatic COVID-19 drive-through testing in 2 weeks. Organizers said they likely completed hundreds of tests today, and they hope that their efforts help limit the spread of the virus. The Center for Disease Control says older adults are at an increased risk for severe illness to the virus. Data compiled by the National Center for Veterans Analysis and Statistics shows that in 2018, over 55% of the nation's veterans were over the age of 60. In Montana, that percentage rises slightly to 57%. They say that in order to definitively know if veterans are more susceptible to the virus, they need more data.
It gives us more information to do surveillance testing. So this is testing on people that have no symptoms, just to see if they're carriers, because then that can protect, if they find out that they do, it can protect their family members, it can protect their friends, it can protect their loved ones, and the general population.
Those who took the test at Fort Harrison's drive-through testing site can expect a result as soon as possible if they test positive for the virus as an asymptomatic carrier, and anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days for those who tested negative.
On the Highline, severe weather grazed residents earlier today. The storm had the potential for golf ball-sized hail and even threats of tornadoes. Thankfully, the system died out by the time it reached places like Havre. Good news for residents there bracing for any damage. National Weather Service spotter Josh Miller says that he saw some heavy winds and rain and light hail. Here are pictures from the Havre area as well as from Fort Benton and Fort Belknap. While the damage could have been much worse, Miller does remind everyone to heed storm warnings and alerts from the National Weather Service and local authorities. And as we mentioned, severe weather starts off this afternoon around the Electric City and continued for several hours. Our Storm Tracker weather team is here to tell us more. Grant Garland joins us now. Grant, it's been a busy day across Big Sky Country.
You're telling me it's exactly right. We had 4 tornado warnings and we had just about 20 severe thunderstorm warnings that were just going off left and right that started right around 1:30 and lasted until around 7:15 for our area. So I wanted to take us back and do a little recap of what happened. So around 10 a.m. in the morning, we had a few showers out towards Lewistown, but we start to see some changes. We start to see more of organized storms by around 12:30. This is when we first see local reports of hail in Helena and Great Falls, and this is also right around the time that we saw our first severe thunderstorm warning that was out towards White Sulphur Springs. Then the next one was in Fort Benton. Now take a look at this. We're going to see an explosion of local reports, storm reports. We're also going to see our storms start to bow out as we head into Glasgow right around 7:30 p.m. I mean, we saw so many storm damage reports from 89-mile-per-hour winds for our friends in Malta, as well as a tornado that it was reported by a police officer right around Winnett. So it was just a really busy day. Thankfully, though, we've got some nice changes on the way that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes. But for now, back to you guys.
We'll have the details from downtown Great Falls next.
Welcome. From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Welcome back. The City of Great Falls is exploring options to make repairs to the Civic Center. While those plans are ironed out, the city is restricting access to the front of the building in the interest of public safety. MTN's Matt Holzaffel explains.
If you've made your way down Central Avenue in Great Falls recently, you've probably noticed these fences put up in front of the Civic Center. They went up after a piece of the back panel of the building fell off, prompting city officials to evaluate the overall health of the building. And while these fences are only temporary, the exact timeline for construction and repairs is still unclear thanks to the coronavirus pandemic.
There's this little thing called COVID that's going on, and that might dictate who can actually locate here to do this type of work.
One piece of concrete.
This is the notorious piece of concrete that fell off the building on the west side.
Added to the list of concerns.
We've always known that there's been some cracking. The rebar, it's kind of interesting, you kind of see the rebar where it's lined up against here, is starting to separate from the cement on there.
Studies completed and planning in progress. The biggest concern at the moment, funding.
One of the options is to use tax increment funding for that. They'll explore that further on August 4th at their work session. The other method we would have to go to the voters and they would have to approve a bond to do the repairs, and it's probably somewhere between $5.5 to $6 million to do the facade fix and the roof, because the roof needs to be done as well.
Either way, city officials expect the process to move quickly once funding is decided.
We've had architectural studies done, so we're in a good position to move fairly quickly once we identify where the funding is going to come from to repair the building.
In Great Falls, Matt Holzaffel, MTN News.
Using tax increment funding would allow the city to avoid asking the public to finance the project.
And Great Falls International Airport is reporting far lower than average monthly revenue numbers so far in 2020. Last month, the airport reportedly brought in just over 20% of their normal June revenue. That's up from 5% of normal revenue in April and 10% in May. But they are also seeing another trend, more people coming into Montana than going out. Airport Director John Faulkner attributes that to the fact that out-of-state travelers arriving in Montana will no longer have to quarantine for 14 days. He added that while the decrease was expected, outbound traffic being down over 80% is still significant. And in tonight's The Rebound Montana, COVID has been a financial strain on many organizations.
MTN's Andy Curtis caught up with Blackfoot River Brewing Company to see how COVID relief has helped them adapt to the new normal.
Just about every business has had to adapt to COVID-19 in one way or another. Blackfoot River Brewing Company in Helena, for instance, moved to a growler pickup and delivery model, doubled their efforts on cleaning and increased outdoor seating. Bethany Flint with Blackfoot says, thankfully, they were a recipient of a COVID relief business adaptability grant.
The loss from COVID has been huge, and I know it's been huge on all of the small businesses in town. So it's really helpful to be able to have funds to spend on things that we weren't expecting, where we could spend those monies on something like health insurance for our staff, or making sure our staff can stay on payroll.
The state's Business Adaption Grant Program was created with federal CARES Act funding to help Montana small businesses adjust to the pandemic. However, the Business Adaptability Grant was recently modified to include any Montana business, regardless of the number of employees. And it includes everything from protective masks to signage. Of the $20 million allocated to the program, businesses have only claimed around $1 million to date. With the program open for any organization registered with the Secretary of State's office, including nonprofits, the state is strongly encouraging organizations to apply to help ease financial burdens associated with adapting to COVID.
And these additional costs, they weren't planned for, they weren't budgeted for. So having the ability to get a reimbursement for those costs, I think has been really good for small businesses.
Reporting in Helena, MTN News team of Andy Curtis and John Riley.
And Montana organizations can apply for the Montana Business Adaptation Grant Program at covidrelief.mt.gov. The grant is capped at $5,000 and can be used for a range of COVID-19 related expenses, including remote working equipment like computers, cleaning supplies, and even travel and hotel costs related to quarantining workers.
In education news, local school districts in Montana will make the call on how they plan to reopen this fall. They're likely to have some form of kids back in the classroom with face-to-face learning. But school officials say it won't be business as usual. They say many schools have been surveying parents and school staff on what it will take to make them feel safe. For those who don't feel comfortable being at school, among larger groups of people, online classrooms will have to be available. And in-person learning will probably look different too, especially in the larger urban districts.
If you've got a group of 30 students together, don't slice that deck and resort it, 6 or 7 times a day, or you will not be able to track who saw who and who was in proximity to whom, and you won't have an effective way of isolating the impact of a positive COVID infection.
Officials also say you'll see lots of cleaning of facilities and other preventative steps like temperature checks. They're on a tight timeline with perhaps 30 days to finalize their plans. They say one thing the public can do to make their job a little easier is to take precautions to stem the spread of disease so the numbers decrease between now and the start of the school year.
Temperatures tonight falling down to around 51 degrees in Great Falls with mostly clear skies. And for our friends in Helena, looking at temperatures around 49 degrees. We'll be back after this break.
Storm Tracker weather starts now with Grant Garland.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, we are looking at mostly clear and windy conditions tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to be seeing pretty much sunny conditions south of the High Line. We will be looking at a few showers out and about from Havre out to Glasgow. But for the rest of the work week, we're going to be warming up to around the upper 80s and around the weekend. So temperatures right now, 57 degrees outside. It looks beautiful, especially from what we were looking at earlier. I mean, it's a totally different situation. And for our friends in Helena, too, 67 degrees. Humidity at only 36%. Looks great. Visibility only is at 10 miles out. So really great conditions. 61 in Jordan, 60 in Glasgow, and a little bit cooler out towards Cut Bank at 53 degrees, 61 in Missoula. As far as our winds are concerned, we still are looking at some breezy conditions, especially for the capital, 25 miles an hour. But you head on up towards Glasgow, where we were looking at 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts. Now we are only seeing 6 mile per hour conditions there. Now today we did get up to around 76 degrees, so 5 degrees cooler than what we typically see. The record set back in 1985 when it was 97 degrees. Also the year that Rambo went back in action for his second movie. Over the last 3 hours, we've been looking at really clearing skies for us. The line that brought in all that severe weather has since pushed out towards the Dakotas and Canada. As we head throughout the night tonight into tomorrow, we will start to see clouds out towards Kalispell. We'll also see a few showers possible for our friends on the High Line, but notice much of us, Great Falls, Helena, as well as Lewistown, are going to be looking at sunny conditions. As we go throughout the day, it will be nice and sunny. Temperatures going to warm up into the 80s tomorrow. And then to start us off at around 10 a.m. on Thursday, we're going to be looking at a drying trend. We're going to see the sun out. It's going to be really, really nice. As far as the winds are concerned, starting off the day tomorrow, they will be breezy at times. By around noontime, though, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds, a little bit breezier for those in Havre as well as Cut Bank, 10 to 20 in Lewistown as well as out towards Jordan and Glasgow. Continuing throughout the evening, right around 5:30, we're going to be looking at 30 to 40 mile per hour winds in Havre, 10 to 20 in Great Falls, Lewistown, and Helena. And things should die down by around by after midnight. However, though, for Glasgow, we're still going to see a little bit breezy conditions, but don't worry, I think that it's going to be a lot nicer than what we have seen today. And you can always follow me on social media, meteorologist Grant Garland on Facebook as well as Twitter and Instagram. And you can always download that free KRTV KRTV KXLH app. It is free, and that way you can also stay weather aware there. Temperatures tonight falling down to around 51 degrees for Great Falls, as well as out towards Helena, 49, 51 in Hayes, out towards Jordan, 55, and a little bit warmer, just at 1 degree warmer, 56 in Glasgow. As we go throughout the day tomorrow, we're going to be looking at 71 in Lewistown, 80 degrees in Jordan, and 75 out in Glasgow. So for the next 3 days, we will be warming up into the 80s, especially by Thursday, sunny and warm. We're going to introduce only scattered chance for showers and thunderstorms on Friday. By Saturday, 88 degrees. It's going to be hot, as well as on Sunday. We're going to be looking at mostly sunny skies on Monday, with only an isolated chance of showers on Tuesday. And for our friends in Helena, really the same situation, just a little bit cooler. Instead of 89 degree weather, you guys deal with 86 degree weather. Back to you, Tim.
Thanks, Grant. And coming up next on the 10 o'clock news, Montana's top football officials told fans to cover up for COVID-19.
Events on and off campus.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Well, today, two of the biggest figures in Montana held a joint press conference to discuss COVID-19.
MTN's John Miller has the latest.
Today, Governor Bullock and Bobcats head coach Jeff Choate had a press conference, and one of the topics was about the importance of wearing a mask.
Well, one of the oldest rivalries in college football may still divide Montana. I think we can all agree that we'd like to see the Brawl of the Wild take place this year.
During the press conference, it was announced that Coach Houck for the Grizz and Coach Choate for the Bobcats have come together to make a PSA about wearing a mask and leading a campaign called Mask Up Montana.
If we want to stay open, we should all listen to the experts and mask up, especially when we can't social distance.
We want our students in class and sports back this fall, but we've got work to do. One proven path to slow COVID-19 is to mask up.
We're wearing our masks,
and our players are too.
I'm wearing my mask to protect you.
Will you wear yours to protect me? Mask up, Montana. I see this as an act of patriotism in a lot of ways and pride in our state. I'm looking forward to seeing all of our fellow Bobcats and Grizzlies around the state to participate in the Mask Up Montana campaign.
Let's make it about keeping our businesses open, making sure that we can watch football like we all enjoy in other sports.
In Bozeman, John Miller, MTN Sports.
Stick around. A final check of your forecast is next.
Well, temperatures tomorrow 73 degrees for the Electric City, warming up to 82 on Thursday with only a scattered chance for showers and thunderstorms on Friday. And for our friends in Helena, 71 tomorrow, sunny and breezy. Thursday, 80 degrees, nice and sunny. And Friday, looking at the same chance with scattered showers and thunderstorms.
All right, thanks, Grant. We'll check this out. 4 months, 41 rolls of duct tape, and one COVID-themed prom dress.
18-year-old Peyton Manker from Illinois made a prom dress entirely out of duct tape for a scholarship contest. Unfortunately, the prom was canceled because of the COVID-19 outbreak, but she used that as her inspiration.
She even had a face mask, I believe, that she made along with like a bracelet or an anklet. So very neat. I'm glad that hopefully she got to show it off somewhat out this year. That's all the time we have tonight at 10. Thanks so much for watching.